I want to start by thanking the organisers of this special issue for the opportunity to contribute. It was really interesting putting my thoughts together on the topic. I'm sorry I can't join for the live webinar. I've pulled out a few talking points from my paper to discuss, and I hope this short video gives a coherent overview of some of the themes in the paper. I'll start by giving a quick introduction to who I am. I started my career in publishing about 22 years ago, and for the last 17 years, I've been working on building systems at scale that support scholarly publishing. Systems from Novel Web 2.0 systems at Nature, massive user contribution systems like Mendeley, publishing systems for eLife. And for the last 4 years, I've been the Chief Technology Officer at BMJ, who is the publisher of the British Medical Journal and a number of other titles. We develop other tools to support healthcare professionals and practitioners, and we're a mission-driven organisation, but we're also a for-profit organisation with a mix of open access and subscription journals. So I felt particularly happy to be able to contribute to the perspectives of this special issue, given that perspective that I come from. I'm also on the board of Data Dryad, which is a community-owned open data sharing infrastructure. Now, I'll just start by saying, I know there's a lot of debate about the role of publishers and the value of different publishing models. But before getting into some of the points that I make in the paper, I want to start by sharing a perspective that I have on all of this. I think one of the key things that we do, if not the key thing, is marshal attention. The research enterprise is all about the creation of amazing ideas and understanding our truth about the world. But we need those ideas to reach the right people, and we need people to find the right venues for the dissemination of those ideas. We need the people who are doing the research also to have the right routes to discovery. And all of this is about a question of where people's attention go. Is it moving in the right place? Is it being used in the most optimal way? And I can tell you that the commercial models that sustain publishers only work if we can be a catalyst in the creation of good systems of marshalling that attention. And rather than attention engines that are spammy, we have to make sure that the information we are mediating is high value, it's validated, and even that the people involved in the creation of that knowledge are also validated. And in a way, that's kind of at the heart of the value that the publishing ecosystem has the opportunity to create. If we weren't doing it, for sure, it's an aspect of knowledge creation that would need to be taken care of somewhere. With that in mind, I'll step through a few points that I make in the paper, and I hope I'll be able to convince you that open data ecosystems and projects like democratizing data are critical to building a future of our knowledge commons. The first point I want to make is that knowledge production is happening today on a scale vastly greater than in the past. There are implications for that. No one person can clearly know all of the research that's happening. But even within their own field, it can be a real challenge to keep up to date with all of the papers that are coming out. No one group can know all of the researchers personally that are involved in the research. And so the kinds of patterns and systems of behavior that we have evolved over the last 100 years or so now need to change to adapt to the reality of this new scale. I think if we fall back into existing patterns, we risk a number of things. We risk excluding new voices. We know that there is a challenge for authors from developing nations to get published, for example. If we fall back onto existing practices, there's a significant risk of continuing to embed biases that are already present in the system. And so the scale that we're operating at today, I think it really demands a change in the approach to how we operate. Now, the good news here is our behavior has always changed. We've always adapted. We don't have to accept the status quo. A nice example of this is that what we think of today as external peer review was practically invented by nature in the 1960s just as a way to deal with a backlog of work. And so the gold standard for peer review that is held up as the most important aspect of our process is a relatively new manifestation of how we think about the creation of knowledge. And so the systems as we look around them today do not need to be fixed. They can change, and we can take some control in the nature of that change. The second point I want to make that I cover in the paper is that we are really moving to trying to understand impact way above thinking about outputs. Questions like how many publications have been produced, even which journal your publication has been produced in, are no longer sufficient for many stakeholders. We want to understand, is it possible to get to what the specific impacts are of specific claims or specific pieces of research? And data is often deeply integrated to actually delivering real impact in the world. I think having data objects as a core social object and understanding things like data reuse or how we can find how data connect different research communities together starts to bring this question about impact to life. I think it acts as a critical and important pillar that takes us beyond outputs towards impact. And I can tell you that we hear on an almost daily basis from our customers their interest in understanding what the actual impact is of the work that we produce or the work that we facilitate in publishing. The third point I'll make is that we are just at the start of this journey. Writing was created 4,500 years ago and it changed the world. The scientific method was discovered only a little over 300 years ago and it has utterly transformed the world for the better. I think web-scale science is in its infancy. Even in the last 2 years, we are seeing innovations happening that we all suspect will have a massive disruption to how knowledge is created and discovered. And there are many references to that in some of the other papers in the special collection. I'll leave you with this thought. The future of our research ecosystem is there for us to grasp and shape together. I am deeply optimistic that working together, we can unlock the full potential of our collective knowledge. I think it will take collaborations amongst the kinds of folk that are well represented in this special collection, and it's been a privilege to be a part of that. That's a bit of the gist of what's in the paper. I hope you enjoy this contribution, and I hope the rest of the webinar goes very well. Thank you very much.